The next session is on cutting edge technologies for employee engagement and wellness. May I request everyone to settle down, please? We are about to begin. I request MCCI colleagues to please help everyone settle down. Please join me in welcoming our esteemed panelists, Captain Anil Dhankad, co-founder Meta Social. I welcome you on stage. He brings decades of leadership experience in organizational performance, strategy execution, and scaling ventures. As an angel investor, advisor, and mentor, he empowers early stage startups to transform bold ideas into sustainable, mission driven businesses. We are very happy to have you with us today. We have with us Ms. Swapna Sangari, VP and Head People and Culture at Quick Heal. May I please invite you on stage? She is a global HR leader and transformational strategist with over 19 years of experience in Fortune 500 companies and startups. It's an honor to have you with us today, Swapna. May I invite on stage Ms. Kasturi Gaikwad, Director, HR and Marketing of Centra Logic, who combines her technical programming background with strategic business acumen to lead HR and marketing initiatives. Fluent in multiple languages, including French, she fosters inclusive workplace cultures and innovative marketing strategies. Welcome, Kasturi. And the panel coordinator, Ms. Pranali Save, CHRO, iCertis. She is a global HR leader with extensive experience across IT, manufacturing, and construction industries. Passionate about leadership development, cultural transformation, and employee experience, she has successfully led business transformations, M&A integrations, and talent strategies across multiple geographies. I hand it over to you.
Thank you for the introductions. Good afternoon, everybody, and I hope the lunch has not dimmed the enthusiasm of the audience in any way. So, most of us in the audience, I believe, are HR professionals or from the educational field, and I think in that role, we are responsible for building a thriving culture in the organizations or the academic institutions that we are part of. And what better way to do that than leveraging technology, especially in the digital age that we are part of today? Leveraging digital technology, especially through AI technology, data-driven analytics, etc., for wellness, for digital well-being tools, and to ensure that employee engagement tools are available. That is really going to help us to leapfrog away and make sure that the culture is strong and remains stronger every day. With the panel that we have today, we will make sure that we delve into the extensive experience that we have and understand how they are doing this within their own organizations and through the extensive experience they have had, and understand from them a little better and how we can apply this in our own organizations back at work. So without further ado, we'll get into the panel discussions. We have a few questions that we will put to the panel, but we'll also make sure to leave time at the end for audience questions so that anything that's top of your mind can get answered here. All right, so let's start. The first question, since you're right next to me, Captain Anil, let me put this to you. How are you leveraging technology to enhance employee engagement and well-being at your organization? And what key metrics do you track to measure the success of these initiatives?
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everyone is awake. I think it's tough, and especially to have a panel discussion. I think we certainly panel discussion will put everybody to sleep. So before I answer, your question, first let me tell a small, short story. That's relevant for my answer, especially. So I'm a Jat, and Jats, with milk, not cow so much. Now we'll, talk about buffalo. So, and I was in school, I prepared essay for my examination, and the essay was on, buffalo. Went to the examination center, and when I reached, Actually, in the question paper, the essay that came was of aeroplane. Now, I wasn't prepared. So, okay, so I started writing. Okay, I went to the airport, sat in, there was an aeroplane flew, aeroplane had a problem, it crashed into the fields. In the field, there was a buffalo sitting, and buffalo has 4 legs. And thereafter, so I think my answers might sound, something like that. I think it's a very important aspect, which we are discussing today, technology, especially in the HR space. And now coming to our discussion, which is on engagement and from a well-being perspective. I go back to first the basic fundamental question, why do we need to engage people? Why do we need to care for well-being of people? I think unless we understand that, sometimes I can approach this, answer from a technology and talk about the tools for engaging and tools for, well-being, and which I think today with the Google or Chat GPT, we all can find out in no time. But I think the important aspect is to understand, you know, why, this particular thing is needed. That is one aspect I, want to talk about. Second, I don't want to restrict. The moment we say technology, I think is the information technology, things related to that, that comes to, mind. But I'm sure, whether it was bullock cart or it was a cycle or thereafter, the vehicle to aeroplane, everything is, technology. So here, I think when you're talking of employee engagement, do we just restrict to information technology? And I have a broader, question. Third thing that I want to, ask all of us to ponder about is on the for whom, So is it employees of elite consulting, technology, or those organization, or the white collar, workers in manufacturing and other areas, or are we looking at a much larger population? In fact, this thought came, Pratik, when we were talking social compact, when you mentioned that, and I said, do we even have, I think after agriculture, the second largest employer is construction. Do we think of only of engineers, or do we think of, those millions and millions of construction workers? And what do we as an HR, do we ever think about uh, of the well-being of those people, or well-being and, engagement of those people, or the millions of drivers or the security guard who's sitting there? So slightly just, want us to think much, in a broader perspective. Coming back to, your question again, I'm not restricting to my own organization. Meta Social is a small, but I have had, a lot of experience with a lot of global organization in, past. Apart from that, what other organizations are doing in, this particular space. So how do we engage employees? I think that's a, first fundamental question. And many times we miss that work is what engages people the most, and work related. So if the work, there's a clarity around what am I doing, how am I supposed to do I get feedback on how am I performing, whom am I working with from a collaboration, etc., perspective. So first set of technologies or tools around the work, I think those are becoming important, and organization have started using, especially, post COVID, or in this era where the worker, the work, and the workplace, the definitions are blurring quite a lot. What is a workplace? When I engage, where do I engage people, from there? So there, the use of especially information technology perspective. So tool, when you're talking of from a management point of view, uh, how do we find things which are interactive? How do we find things which help my solutions become personalized for those employees? How do I, make sure that that is something that keeps them engaged, supported, involved and motivated? So that's a, framework in which we are talking. So today there are enough technologies from a collaboration perspective, from a performance management point of view, from knowing uh, the feel, or getting a sense of what people are feeling at that moment. So it's today real-time feedbacks which are possible there. From a health and fitness perspective, I think lot of us are aware of a lot of gamification that can be brought in into, so creating leaderboards, creating badges, recognizing people, so in the reward and recognition and all that space. So I think I'll come back to, but just wanted to give this broader perspective first before we go into. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Anil. Anyone would like to add something here, Kasturi or Swapna? Yeah, if not, I'll move to the next question, Kasturi, for you. What innovative platforms or tools have made a noticeable impact on enhancing employee well-being and employee experience?
Well, for me personally, I believe in outside activities when we are talking about employee well-being or employee wellness. But getting everyone available at the same time or at the specific time, it's a biggest challenge. And I think everybody relate what happens to Fun Friday because nobody is available at the time. So in this time, the tools play a major role. There were some tools which I personally used in my career. That was Yumu, where it's just small nudges the system sends, and it's basically just a small nudge to manager, just saying that just check on your employee. That employee has tasks and everything. So these are basic tools which are there in market and which are easily available. Uh, Moving on, there are many platforms. Healthify Me, Cult, they are offering. It's basically for the remote working people who are there, and Healthify Me and all the things they are offering a set of workout together, so everybody can join from their home, from their laptop, and everything. Talking about employee experience, I think employee engagement is a major part of that, because as a healthy employee is organization best asset. And employee engagement, where the actual employee engagement happens when there is a 360 survey, so that employee can also make sure that they are giving feedback to the managers and managers are doing vice versa. So in conclusion of everything, there are different tools. Every HRMS has the integrated employee well-being and employee experience tool included. Where I'm currently working at Centralogic, we also do have in-house HRMS system, and the tools which we are using, it's basically a just simple nudge where we ask our employees how they are feeling. If anybody is feeling pressured, they're not feeling well, they're mentally very stressed and everything. So it's just basic things. There are available in the market, and there are different tools. These are just basic tools which I said. Yeah, that's.
Thanks. That was a good list of tools. And follow-up question to you, Swapna, would be, there are all of these technological innovations. How do you ensure an alignment between these kind of innovations and your company's culture and values?
Okay. Like Captain Anil, he started with the story. Let me also quickly start with the story. So essentially, innovation, something that comes to my mind is that how my 18 years old daughter is actually sneaking out and coming up with different innovative uh, ways wherein she can tell me why she out today and what different kind of friends she's catching up with. Or my younger daughter, who's in sixth now, and keeps on telling me, "Oh, I've lost my compass, and I need to have. I had tons of pens with me, and I would want to have it." So it's about, we are talking about when we mention innovation, it's a broad spectrum from a very glorious, decentralized. Way of coming up with different ideas, very similar to what you can really think of, Mercedes-Benz, uh, their office in Canada, their incubation center, wherein when they actually started having more women employees, the kind of innovation bent of mind and the kind of different colors that they invented, wherein only, very, stark businessmen only buying Mercedes, to everybody started really looking at that, right? So that's an innovation bent of mind, something that we're talking about. If you've heard about, I'm sure many of us have spoken and heard there's a gentleman called Gay Kawasaki. He's Stanford grad, and he's the one who actually one of the venture capitalists he's one of the Google advisors there, and he was talking about when you say innovation, it's all about bringing some meaning, right? And when we are talking about or desire to bring in meaning, right? And when we say what does that meaning by and large, is really thinking beyond doing something great for the world, right? And I think money is byproduct, right? So that's by and large when we're talking about innovation here, right? um, uh, in 1900, I was just going through some case studies there. So in 1900 BC, there were uh, people really started actually cutting the large ice plaque, and they used to go to most winter deserted places in the world, and they used to create those ice plaque. They used to cut. So for them, the innovation was how I can really bring in better horses, or higher number of horses, or how I can sharpen the axe, right? That was more of an innovation. Where they moved, that was something called as ICE 1.0. ICE 2.0 largely talked about, really decentralizing or creating ICE cubes, or creating those, making those ICE available across the world and shipping them across everywhere, wherever it was really required. ICE 3.0 again talked about how I can really create those personal chillers, refrigerators, right? That's how the refrigerator invention has happened. So what I'm essentially talking about, the culture part, uh, innovation is one, but you as an organization, are we really thinking hard? And do we have that fail fast as a culture attitude, wherein we are allowing our team to really think out of the box, give them opportunity? One of the values that comes to my mind here again, so first I'm talking about the culture. If I look at today, a few of the organizations that I worked for, customer centricity is one of the very, very strong culture that we've really started building on. The second value that comes to my mind is, how you can really build on, transparency, or you really start thinking about people, and how would you empathize with them and care, right? So these are few values that we can talk about. So when you are innovating as an organization, A, do you provide the right space wherein they can really think out of the box? B, if they can fail fast and there's a psychological safety. And majority, when you're talking about culture, in Japan, Tokyo, uh, it's all about we really sinking through that thought that we are ready as economy, as a country, right? And really dwelling towards that we really want to invest, right, heavily into building those innovations. Like in Tokyo, for example, they've created certain tiles, and those tiles, when you walk on those tiles, it actually generates energy through kinetic energy, right? So this is also one of the things, because we are ready as a country, we are ready as a culture, we really imbibe. So I think it's a very, very large spectrum of innovation as a concept that we are talking about. And I feel there are few organizations who are there, like say, for example, DuPont, 3M, I've seen even IT companies, they're really there. But as a culture, I think it's all about the moment you really start talking about it, by and large, our leadership is ready to really buy in that point from the management. And you really encourage and recognize those innovative thoughts. I think we will really move faster on the innovation standpoint. That's a thought.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks. Good set of examples in there. So we heard about what kind of innovations are there and what culture is required to support them. Coming to today, a lot of things about the concept of work, workplace, workmen itself is changing. Work as we know it has changed, of course, but workplace has changed. Captain Anil talked about work in different sectors and construction sites, or work could be on the road where you are in a company bus, or you could be in a transport company in driving a truck, or work even in today's world of hybrid. You could be in an office, you could be working from home, or you could be working from a cafe. How do you think about well-being in this context? Because well-being then is you're not only thinking about that environment in an office, but you're thinking about that environment in a construction site, or that environment in a company bus, or that environment in that cafe where that person is working out of. So it makes things very challenging. Similarly, the workman or workwoman has also changed. We have gig workers entering the workplace. You have people who are doing part time. You have different kinds of people, Zomato, etc. You have people doing part time work. You have your Uber drivers, etc. So, and you have consultants and all kind of formats of workmen or workwomen in the workplace. So the nature of employment is also changing, so several new challenges are coming up. Then when you look at technology, it's advancing every day. You have Gen AI, you have agentic frameworks, you have new changes coming in every day. So how do you keep up with these challenges? And in the context of this, how do you transform well-being and culture and make sure that you are taking care of your workforce in whatever format it is coming to you? Let's look at that with the panel now. So my next question goes to you, Kasturi. In a hybrid or a remote work environment that we just talked about, how are you using technology to foster connection and well-being?
Uh, That is a really great question because I think handling the culture of organization, it's kind of like a hidden part of HR professionals' job description. And it falls on in our hands. So there were some like when there was a pandemic, everybody's priority really shifted after the pandemic. Some of them were more focused on their families and they decided to switch to remote or hybrid. The main uh, issues or the main problem which we face is onboarding the employee because everything happens remotely. It's just over a call. You have to be sure, you have to make sure that you are talking to that employee is feeling welcomed in the organization. So this is kind of a biggest challenge we faced, and there were numerous things which organization has to do. In particularly, I would like to just name one organization. It's EXP Realty. They are working remotely since they have started, and they are using platforms like Slack and everything just to make sure employees are engaged in different of quizzes, let's say game of chess or simple just Q&As basically. Uh, what challenges I personally faced were those it was very hard for employee to get engaged, especially when the employees are in different teams. So if we are talking about the team, finance team and HR team, it was very hard for them to interact with each other, just engage in a topic or discussions or something. So in those cases, uh, using the technology, like using platforms like Slack, there is Workplace, just a small set of quizzes, just small set of Q&As, that helps a lot. And especially in a performance review or when we are talking about employee engagement performance review, the one-on-one meetings, they are the biggest solution I will personally recommend. So weekly one-on-one meetings with managers or weekly one-on-one meetings with HR, it does not give that much of comfort to the employee, but it's just make sure that employee knows that they are belong to something. They belong to part of the organization. And then we just try to schedule one town hall per month or any of the event in 6 months, because making sure the employees are connected with organization, especially in hybrid or remote work model, is kind of, it's difficult. It's not impossible, but it's sort of difficult. And leveraging technologies or leveraging, let's say, Teams, Zooms, Skype, or whatever platforms are there, that is just one part. But another part is also make sure that they are engaged, they know that they belong to organization, and organization also remembers them even if they are remote.
Yeah, I think that sense of belonging that you brought up is really important because today, otherwise, when you're working remotely in particular, every company is just the same laptop. So, feeling that sense of belonging or that sense of connectedness becomes really crucial. Anyone would like to add something, Swapna or Captain Anil? Okay, yeah. All right, Captain Anil, next question to you. How do you manage the challenge of digital fatigue while still promoting technology for engagement and wellness?
I think pretty good, and I would say not only digital. I think the fatigue itself, and if talk of, uh, and again, I get reminded of Pratik mentioned the fatigue in the organization. If the right systems, processes, alignment isn't there, how that you yet can get results, but yet you can get fatigued. Here also, I see some guys, almost eyes drooping. So the first key question is, why does this overall fatigue happen? And especially, of course, from a digital perspective, I think is a big, big challenge. I think we as individuals as well as employees do feel the over exposure to, the screen, uh, anytime availability, maybe, even sitting at this dais, responding to, some of organizational or other thing, I think is a big challenge. I think fatigue right from home when you start a Pune like traffic, which causes the physical environment in which you sit, certainly has adds or removes that. This lighting which comes in, when you're sitting in a work environment, when you're talking of technology, again, I'm saying not just from a point of view of IT or a digital perspective, the surrounding noise, etc. So I'll give you one, example first from a working perspective. In one of the organizations where I saw people were cramped there, and I talked to the CEO founder. I said, "Why don't you provide a little more space? People will be far more productive here." And he said, "No, it cost." I said, "Let's do a cost benefit analysis." And it turned out the cost was not coming even 25 rupees per day, extra, where you could increase the space by more than 50%. So 60 square feet to a 90 square foot area, and that could have created so much more productivity for people. So from an ergonomics perspective, 24 by 7 availability. Now, how do we stop that? I think that's important. How do we put, where meetings is a big fatigue when it comes to organizations, and meeting are not only physical meetings, especially when we work in a global environment. I have one call to attend where it is in the eastern part of world, especially when you're sitting in India. If I'm working with a client or an my own organization in Australia or Asia Pacific side, and then if I'm also have a Europe or God forbid, Mr. Trump's country, then so how do we make these meetings asynchronous? So today the technologies are available where you need not participate in that meeting at that point, at that moment, in that location. So I think that is one way of, in a lot of cases, identifying is the fatigue, setting in. The mental stress, the physical, well-being perspective, the emotional well-being perspective, and there are tools available today on a call. A person's emotions can be very well read. Of course, you have to take care of the lot of the security safety issues, but where if we can take care of them, we can certainly anticipate. Today, the technology is available which can scrape through whatever work related things, interactions you are having on platforms like ClickUp, etc., and your mail conversations and the language and the words, etc., which are being expressed. And from there, you could get insights, and where you can try and say, you can have days where saying, hey, today is a no meeting day, that we will have, or restrict. There are organizations who restrict online meeting times to 25 minutes, 30 minutes, and not have, some cases hours together. Some places we do encourage having video, calls, but many organizations say, because when you're working from anywhere, your home environment might not be such. So maybe putting a video off sometimes can help. So I think it's a big challenge, both as an individual. I think we struggle. I think we see our children struggling, with this overexposure as far as the digital side is concerned. But this is a necessary evil. We work in this anywhere, anytime environment. We can't avoid. Now, thing is, how do we control? Can we put, some timelines? Can we, measure things how we are doing? And can we bring policy changes where the things like, as I said, no meeting day, no meeting beyond 30 minutes, and also as much can we gather the information using technology, how a person is feeling. Is this person engaged? Is this person tired? Is this person optimally working? I think that is today possible. So I think that is where we can try and first understand why fatigue is setting in, and then we try by improving, let's say, lighting, by improving the air conditioning, by improving seating, by improving. So it's a comprehensive approach that one has to take. The screen sizes, many other things, which we have to look at. So address it holistically is what I would suggest. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I like your no meeting day. In fact, in my organization, one of the things we utilized when we got feedback on stress and fatigue was this no meeting Fridays, where Fridays you couldn't have any digital meeting. In-person meetings were permitted if it was more of one-to-ones. Later we stopped that, we got back to it, but certain teams still practice one day of the week where they don't have digital meetings, and people still remember that and say that it gives them a lot of time to do creative thinking and de-stress themselves. All right, Swapna, you come from the cybersecurity industry. So question for you is, how do you ensure privacy and ethical use of employee wellness data? There's so much of discussion around responsible usage of data, etc. So how do you ensure this?
Yeah. So I think, whenever you talk about especially wellness purposes, when you start getting employee information, right? So that typically happens through our HRMS system, and we try and we start getting all that information at regular intervals. I know, especially in Australia and New Zealand, right? Employees are extremely, they are not very comfortable, and they're very private in terms of sharing their personal information, right? Even to the employer. Okay. So especially when DPDP Act coming in place, right? When we talk about very, very conservative, if I have to bring in that linearity here, in terms of wellness perspective, for what typically we use employee information, right? What kind of different wellness offerings as an employer that we give it to our employees? Typically, say, employee assistance program, right? Wherein you start gathering that information, wherein you provide where largely employee data is gathered, right? First is employee assistance program, wherein you have, therapists, psychologists who are coming in and, who actually start dwelling deeper into, your personal issues, your career counseling issues. You also have sometimes, especially on the insurance side, you have your parental insurance coming in, your family members insurance, that you try and gather that information. So I think it's all about keeping all those things very private, having consent from employees as and when the information is is captured by them. I think that is that's like basically maintaining the sanctity of the data. And if we are doing it for the by and large for the world around whom we are catering to, I think it is evidently, it's so very important that we curate and we keep that data and maintain that privacy and confidentiality with us. One of the examples that I can quote quickly here is that one of the products in my previous associations, we launched that product, and we also ensured that our employees have privy to that product. So we extended the product licenses to our employees, right? And there was some enhancement that required. And of course, typically in IT organization, you sometimes either you have enhancement or there's a bug which you need, that needs to be corrected, wherein the employee contact details we had to collect it, and we further had to share. Now I'm talking about wellness here. So wellness, there are 9 different dimensions, right? And I'm sure each one of us, we really understand. We talk about not only physical wellness but psychological wellness, uh, physiological wellness. There are so many wellness, mental wellness, right? So here we are talking about when we started getting this information from employees, and the bug started hitting really bad on the product. My CPO asked me employee data, to which I said, no, I mean, this is something that I want to give it to you, even though it's a company property. I mean, even though we have taken, the employees are ours and we are privy to that information. So unless you really, all those who would want to see the enhanced version of the product, you please take consent from them and then take it. I think that's what my point here is, that it's all about when you, especially on the wellness front, when your cyber wellness is also one of the things, right? Nowadays, which is picking up. So as and when all such things really come up, I think consent, keeping data private is extremely critical, because you are dealing with trust of people. Yeah.
Well, next question is for the audience. Somebody's already raising their hand. Let's take a question there. Can someone give them a mic?
Good afternoon. My name is Murli Pillai. I'm a professional quiz master, and I conduct employee engagement quizzes for corporate companies. During COVID, it all happened online because everybody was working from home. And then now it's become some kind of a hybridized model where the initial sessions are all online, and then the finals are on stage or whatever. Basically, my question is, like, I've realized that the companies which are opting for fun quizzes to beat fatigue, to as a stress buster, as a employee mental wellness, etc., are typically the large organizations. Start off from MNCs, and now, of course, because I conduct for Deloitte, Infosys, Bajaj Auto, Bajaj Finserv, etc. But by and large, companies are using this as just an employee engagement aspect, whereas I think they should link that to even the talent acquisition part, because a lot of movement can happen internally. Like, but why a lot of companies think quizzing is only for the high end kind of the nerds or the geeks or the whereas what we're trying to promote is to make people think, to think creatively, as you mentioned. How do you think it should be promoted in companies for mental wellness of the employee, uptake and things like that? So how would you guys, because you're the thought leaders in this field, how would you take this approach and integrate it in your organization, as madam said, once in 6 months or once a year or whatever, it doesn't matter, but as a activity which will help the organization as well as the employees.
Thank you, sir. I think very interesting question, and that's an area you are an expert. And uh, I personally haven't had too many, quizzes, etc. But I think the point that I get from what you were saying is, how do we use some of the activities which can, make people more curious, can make people more, creative. Also, I'm sure there is a gamification, so there is a, collaboration and competition, cooperation that can, come in through such things that you are, talking about. And not only quiz, I think there could be many other, ways. So, for example, in I think technology companies, a lot of hackathons are, organized again, from making people think and come up with, some brilliant ideas, and thereafter, they can be. So I'm sure we as an HR professionals and leaders have to think, what challenge that is being faced, and how one particular tool or one particular activity that can, add value. And if someone sees a quizzing kind of a thing, and if it can be made far more broad based, I agree with you, it should not be, remain with elitist or only, select few, because then it doesn't do serve the purpose that it is supposed to serve. And today, with the technology, this is possible. You could have not only just virtual and this within digital environment today, the kind of games, etc., that are being played. So I'm sure a lot of digital gamification can be brought into, inculcate those things, whether it's a creativity, whether it's a curiosity, whether it's innovation, whether it is teamwork, whether, other, collaborations, etc. So I'm sure it can be used. I don't know if any one of you have used and want to add something. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Captain. So, sir, thank you for that question. I I can look back, a couple of years back. I have seen this is a very typical culture, which is really um, really looked at, which product organizations who are really willing to take their people, who would want to give them uh, different problems every day, wherein they would want to sharpen their minds, wherein they are fresh. So I remember one of the associations, we used to put Jenga, right? And that is, I'm talking about some physical games, right? So, and there were multiple such quiz that we used to ensure that we run it as a exclusive time that we've set aside for the product engineers, right? So, and the cadence that we used to have it like once in a month or once in 3 weeks. So it is essentially not only for the corporate world that we're talking about, but when we look back during our younger age, I think that kept us sharp, right? That kept us, you know, maybe, bringing in that cutting edge element to us, wherein decision making, identifying the right problem statement, and really coming up with a solution centric approach. I think that's where this quiz really brings in. And if you really ask me how the corporates are embracing it, there are corporates who really who get to know the importance of it. They will be more than happy to embrace it in their regular curriculum or the way of working. So yeah, I hope this answers. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Captain.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yeah, somebody there.
Hi, my name is Rashmi. So today we are talking about, adapting different technologies, which is the future. There is one more aspect which workforce needs to adapt to, which is the next generation which is coming into the workforce. We are calling them Gen Z. So in few years, our majority of workforce will be Gen Z. And these Gen Z will be managed by the millennials. And we all know there is a huge difference between how millennials, even I belong to that, look at the work and how Gen Z look at the work. So when there is a conflict of viewing at the work between these two generations, it's bound to happen. There will be stress, disengagement. So my question is that how we should, I mean, I'm very sure that these must be being discussed in the board or in the company strategies to prepare our workplace for these Gen Zs. So my question is, what shift do we need to do to make our workplace more viable to these Gen Zs? Now, by the way, I'm asking this question being the first-hand experience, having the first-hand experience because at the one hand, I have a Gen Z growing up in my house who feels mama is always wrong. On the other hand, I have my first set of Gen Z work team members for whom productivity has a different definition, loyalty has a different definition, even the work purpose of work has a different definition. So, how do we prepare ourselves to make our workplace more engaging and where they can connect uh, as we used to connect with the company?
Again, a great question and a challenge. And I think this challenge again has been with every generational change. So I don't think this is something new. Only thing the rate of change now is far, far more, and also the degree of change. I think both these things make this thing so difficult. So my answer is very simple. I'm a Gen X, so from there. So I think the answer is very simple: understanding and acceptance. I think the conflict comes when we don't understand and when we don't accept those newer ways or newer expectations which are coming in. We have no choice but to align with that. Okay, we have no choice. Having said that, see, country like India, sometimes when we talk of these generations, when I go to my village, of course, today is the connectivity and the availability of media has leveled the playing field quite a lot. But yet, I think my daughter works with an NGO, and when they go to areas like in Chhattisgarh, in remote, in Dantewada, and from other places, so we are living in couple of centuries away. So there are people who are in that. There are people who are still living in 60s, people who are still today living in 90s, and there are people who are quite way ahead, maybe 21st or 22nd century. So having all this mix, this challenge has always been there. So it's not that it's a new challenge, which is, but accepting today those definitions are changing. The loyalty, what it was, 30, 35 years